Hi guys, Michael here, and today I'll be talking about the common reasons why people may flake on you or ghost you. Now let's be honest, in modern day society, we're all so connected by social media and by technology, and especially through dating apps and things like LinkedIn, that we have more options than ever of who to communicate with and who we can spend time with, communicating with either online or in person. So with all these options, it shouldn't be surprising that people who are very desirable, either as a dating partner or a business partner, they have so many overflow of options all the time, more than they could ever really meet with in person, let alone talk with online in some capacity, that they're going to be very protective of their time. Now, while some people might ghost you or flake on you, and you might see this as it being rude, in some cases that is the reality, but in other cases, you really should realize and take the responsibility on yourself and realize maybe it's one of these 4 things that you're doing that's causing it to happen so often. So 1, maybe you never established a real significant connection during your initial meeting, and thus the person doesn't really feel connected and invested enough from that initial interaction to really find any interest in carrying it forward into the future. Or 2, you were not really honest with the person. You didn't make your honest intentions clear and made them clear in a way where they came off congruent. That is, your thoughts, words, and actions were aligned to the point where the person could trust what you're saying and thus trust you as a person. 3, you never gave the other person a specific reason why they should exchange contact information with you. What's the point? Are you going to meet in the future? To do what? Like, they should know this from the start when they're giving you their number or email address or whatever. And finally, 4, perhaps you're putting too much pressure on the other person, where they feel like if they meet with you, you're going to have an agenda and you're going to push that forward. And if their feelings evolve differently of how they perceive they want the relationship to go forward, you might not respect them about that. And thus they're going to want to avoid the interaction altogether so they don't get put into that type of situation. Now, a lot of other coaches teach things like, you don't want to seem too available. You want to seem like you have a lot of stuff going on, so don't reply right away, or ignore some text, or wait 3 days before calling. And I don't teach any of this stuff. I don't even think about this, because I like to view a client as someone who's going to become an attractive person that people want to spend time with. And only a person with a real needy mindset even has these thoughts going through their mind like, oh, I better not call yet, I better wait another day. This is the very definition of a needing person, a person who's worried about the outcome, or a person who's worried about calling too soon. You want to become a person who lives their life in abundance, a person who is the person who feels like they have all these options. And you want to start adopting, having that mentality from the beginning. That is, you shouldn't be a person thinking about coming off too needy, because a person who's living in abundance, they never think like, oh, I'm calling too soon. They're just simply like, hey, I want to meet this person, let's do it, and they do it. They don't second guess all their choices. We're now going to go through 2 case studies, one in the dating arena and one in the business arena, to illustrate some of these points. Case study 1. A man approaches a woman at a bar and starts what turns out to be a pretty one-sided conversation. He basically interviews the woman about her life while simultaneously providing very little value in return. After 20 minutes of tolerating the man, the woman then sees one of her friends and excuses herself by saying that she must go and meet her. Blindsided by this abrupt escape maneuver, the man quickly stammers, "Wait, let's exchange numbers." With a look of first surprise and then reluctance, the woman concedes to give out her number, since she views doing so as the quickest and least awkward way of ending the interaction. The man then goes home and wonders how long he should wait before calling, as if it actually mattered at this point. After following the classic advice of waiting 3 days, so not to look needy, he is somewhat surprised that his initial text message is met with "who?" followed by radio silence. I personally reserve text messaging only for communicating concise information and never for trying to establish relationships. If I haven't created a connection with the person through the initial face-to-face interaction, I don't try to build that connection through the emotionless medium of text messaging. While calling is one step better, nothing can compete with a face-to-face interaction. So this man's primary problem wasn't that he didn't wait 3 days before calling. It was that he didn't establish a proper connection from the initial interaction. Now, he never even gave his honest intent. He never showed his honest intentions, that was that he had some romantic interest in the woman. But the very fact that he walked across the bar and started a conversation with her probably clued her in that was his true interest. but he came off as not looking congruent because his words, what he was saying, and the stuff he was talking about wasn't congruent with his actions of him actually approaching the person. So he came off as dishonest and not showing his honest intentions. This incongruence between his thoughts, words, and internal desires really showed a lack of confidence, which probably instilled disinterest in the woman. The final nail in the coffin was the man never gave the woman a good reason why she should give him her number, right? And usually the best reason is it's to do something together in the future. And you should provide this reason, ideally, prior to asking for the number, right? The giving of the number should just be a way of facilitating the future meeting. So, for example, if the woman was into sushi and she just moved to the city, the man could be like, oh, you like sushi? So do I. I'll take you to my favorite sushi restaurant. What's your number? Now she's giving her number to the guy for a specific reason, so we can call her to invite her to a sushi restaurant. So when he does finally call her in the future, she knows what it's all about. It's no surprise to her. This has already been established during this initial interaction. Or maybe it can just be they can go for a hike together, or they can go for a coffee, right? There's an expectation of why she's to expect a call or to be contacted from this other person. By first asking the woman to attend an event with him, even if the exact date isn't fixed, and having her agree, he can now more confidently ask for the number, having already provided her with good justification for providing it. Okay, let's proceed on to case study number 2. A person attends a lecture given by a man who currently works in a business area that the attendee desires to get involved in. After listening to the lecture, the attendee approaches the lecturer and starts a conversation. He compliments the lecturer and mentions that he is interested in his field of work. After feeling the pressure of the people standing behind him, who also desire to speak to the lecturer, the man hands the lecturer his business card, says, "Let's keep in touch," and then leaves. The lecturer is a bit confused, looks shortly at the card before placing it in his back pocket, where it is later destroyed by his washing machine. Like in the previous example, this man never provides any initial value to the other person. He never shows his true intentions, and he never gives a good reason why that, in this case, the presenter should meet with him in the future. What the man should have done was express that his true intent was to get some mentoring from the lecturer, and perhaps offer to take the lecturer out to dinner in exchange for having him answer some of his questions. In that case, it would be transforming his business card, not just from some piece of paper, but into a future dinner coupon. And even better, now that he's already proposed taking the lecturer out to dinner, he has a reason to ask for that lecturer's number, and for the lecturer to have a good reason to provide it to him and look forward to him contacting him. Both of these case studies show the importance behind giving a reason why the other person should exchange contact information with you. And this reason should mirror your actual honest intentions and should be presented from the start of the interaction. Simultaneously, you should show that you're not too overly dependent on the outcome of any interaction, because you don't want to put the pressure on the other person to the point where they're going to be uncomfortable meeting with you. You really should have the mentality of, hey, we should meet up. And if something goes great, we find a good business, we find a good relationship, whatever, that's cool. If not, no problem. So that concludes today's video. I hope you got some value out of it. If you're interested in learning more social skills specifically for the dating area, then I recommend you check out my book. And if you're interested more in the business arena, I created an online video course that covers social skills for all different interactions. Both of these things can be found linked to in the description below. Remember to click the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, ciao.